Whether you're a new Amazon seller or an experienced Amazon seller, there comes a time in every Amazon seller's business where you need to start increasing the amount of product leads that you have in your business so that you can source more products for your Amazon business. Now, for a lot of new sellers, that can be immediately. And for some of you, that may be a little bit further down the road whenever you're looking to grow and scale your business and you're trying to think of ways to bring in more products that you can sell. Now, one of the best ways to do that is through a leads list provider. And specifically on this video, we're going to be talking with the OA Cheddar team, both Gabe and Taylor, who have been with OA Cheddar for a long time. One is a co-founder of OA Cheddar, and the other one has been running the Amazon operations and helping run the operations of the leads lists for a while now. And they both have so much experience with selling on Amazon, going all the way back to 2014. I've been selling since December of 2015, so it's great to see, how much Amazon selling history there is between all of us. But I'm excited to bring these guys onto the channel because they have been the best leads list provider that I've seen ever since I started in 2015. Now, back in the day, I used to talk against buying leads lists because I felt that those products would eventually become saturated and you could no longer buy them, or maybe the prices would tank. But over the last couple of years, I have realized the power in having data, not just data of products that maybe don't make as much money, but having just data of things that do make a good amount of money, that are over 40% return on investment and over a certain dollar profit. Because if you have that data, you can use it as leverage to grow and scale your business in the future. And so that's why I'm bringing on the OA Cheddar team to discuss their leads list providing service, because ultimately it's been the best one that's been around for years. I know many, many big sellers that use them still consistently and have done so for years. And they just are a wealth of knowledge that have done leads lists right. So if you're interested in checking them out, you can go to askjimmysmith.com/OA Cheddar. But obviously, we've got a whole interview talking about the history of OA Cheddar, talking about how to source from leads lists, what to look for as a new or experienced seller, and whether or not you should even be getting into a leads list. But ultimately, let's go ahead and get into this interview with Gabe and Taylor from OA Cheddar, and we'll see you over there. Hey, Gabe. Hey, Taylor. Thank you so much for joining me today. Super excited to have you on the channel.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Jimmy.
Yeah. So I know for a long time, actually, we haven't really conversed much over the years. I've been selling since 2015 on Amazon. And, we recently met at the Proving Conference here in Orlando just a few weeks ago. So it was great to get to know you guys. But I really wanted to bring you on the channel because you, as a lead list provider, has been around for years at this point. In my opinion, you're the most respected lead list provider out there. And I've kind of changed some of my sourcing philosophy over the last couple of years and really wanted to talk more about utilizing leads lists. So before we get into kind of how to use it, I would like to hear a little bit more for my audience, the history of OA Cheddar, how you started and kind of where you're going moving forward.
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks, Jimmy. I usually do your job, so it's fun to create some content. We want to create some value for folks, and we've kind of been quiet for the last couple of years. We started the service in 2018 officially, and I think it's important to maybe talk why we started OA Cheddar, because a lot of people don't know this. I got a business partner, Grant Dunn. Taylor's on the call with us. He's our general manager. I'll let him talk specifics today. But we didn't jump out and say, hey, we're going to start a lead list. It was quite the opposite. It was a business we weren't looking for. We had a group of clients we were coaching. This was back in 2015, 16, 17, in that range. And the clients all had the common challenge, and they were doing online arbitrage, retail arbitrage. And, Grant has a seasoned account. He started selling on Amazon around 2014, somewhere around that range, about the same time I did. So his account was ungated and a ton of stuff. He sells a lot of clothing, a lot of shoes, a lot of beauty stuff, a lot of things that other people can't sell. And the clients needed leads. And so we said, well, hey, let's, these guys had paid good money to be in a coaching group. Let's try and solve their problem here. So we hired some VAs, got them trained up, and started spoon feeding OA opportunities to the group. And this was back, Grant was still doing mostly retail arbitrage at that time. He's since then shifted his business model, exclusively sources now off OA Cheddar, and Taylor does the buying. He can talk about how they buy off the list. So we're glad that's why we started it, but I'm excited to talk to you, Jimmy, because I think this is one of the reasons we have come out of, we've just been quietly behind the scenes pumping out leads for 5-6 years now, and, focusing on quality and building team culture, and a lot of things that go into lead list that people don't see. I think a lot of people see the outside and say it looks like a sexy little business. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of manual labor, a lot of systems, a lot of processes. But that's why we got in the space. That's why we started making leads, and we released that first lead list, and it was successful. And we said, hey, let's make another one. And we just continued making leads. We just released a new Nike list this year, Nike Plus. It's our first time going category specific. It's kind of a private list. It's not listed publicly on our website, but that's the cliff notes, man. I know people aren't here to hear about us though. No, they want to talk about, how do you source from lead lists and some of that stuff. That's our kind of cliff notes story.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and it's interesting too, because I've used different lists over the years, but I had always kind of had the philosophy of, hey, if you're doing replenishable products on Amazon, which is what I teach, trying to find full price stuff and sell it on Amazon at a markup, then don't get leads lists, because they're just going to tank and you're not going to have good success with it. But over the last couple of years, really, I've been kind of switching up that sourcing philosophy more into how can we create leverage in our Amazon businesses, and that comes through information, that comes through leads that we can come back to over and over again. So I'm curious from a sourcing perspective, how you talk to your clients about how to source from these leads lists, because a lot of people have concerns over, I'm going to buy off the leads list and then 30 people are going to jump on it and it's going to tank. So what are some of your suggestions for maximizing that?
Well, I would add to that do prices tank? Yes. But is it the concern that everyone on the lead list is going to jump on this listing immediately after it gets shared? And the reality is just that doesn't happen. We see normally about, from my experience, maybe 30 to 40% of whatever the list size is may come on a listing if it's a really good selling listing. Now, there are some listings that look slower and scare some people away, and less people jump on those. And you also got to consider everyone has their own constraints. So somebody might have, a limited budget. So, even though they want to purchase that item, they just don't have the money to do so. You have restrictions. You also have just sourcing strategies as a whole that kind of get into the mix. But when I talk to folks about lead lists, I usually tell them there's about 3 different ways that you can work it. Number 1, rabbit trailing. Okay, use the lead list as a starting off point. Okay, we exposed you to multiple sources that you've probably never heard of as a Amazon seller. But we also expose you to different sales and promotions that can be really great for rabbit trailing. Another cool thing about our list too, when it comes to variations for shoes and clothing, for example, we only share 2 variations. So we might be having a pair of sneakers that have 5 or 6 variations that are profitable and good. We are only going to show you 2. And we do that because we want to reward those who do the rabbit trailing. And, no one wants to get a lead list where it's like, hey, here's, 20 different variations of this shoe. That's a ton of data to go through. So rabbit trailing off a lead list is one strategy that works really well. I call that I'm high on time and I'm low on capital, right? I have the time to go in and dig in, and I really want to make sure that everything I purchase is going to have the greatest chance of being profitable. So I'm going to avoid the listings that have the competition hit for now. Okay. And I'll touch on that in the third strategy. And I'm going to focus in on finding items that aren't on the lead list, but the lead lists are pointing me towards. Okay. The second strategy I call I'm high on capital, low on time. And this is something that Grant and I do in our own business right now, because that's kind of the world that we're living in right now. And so we buy a little bit of everything. I have a big wide funnel of data. I buy, 80 to 90% of what we share on the lead list I'm purchasing, but I'm purchasing small quantities of it. Call it test buys. And then what we do is we have a team of VAs working in our business that are analyzing what we're actually selling. And so if we find an item and we buy 5 of it and we send it in, and within a week we sell 3 of that 5, we are going to quickly restock that item if possible. And the goal here is funnel down the data, find the gold nuggets, and then sit on those gold nuggets for as long as we possibly can. Okay, replenish it, go deeper in stock. Okay, and this usually comes with multiple test purchases. It's not, I don't buy 5 one day and then buying 50 the next, right? And then the third is go through your old data. And so what a lot of folks miss on is they think, okay, I'm getting my lead list, I'm going to buy these items today, and then I'm never going to think about it again. That data is expired. And that's a wrong way of approaching it. Go back and look at your old lead data, because You might look at stuff that's 30 days old from the time that it landed on the list. You already see what the competition hit was, right? You can also find items that are already starting to recover, and you can attack those. And that's one nice thing about OA Cheddar is the way that we deliver leads. We have like a 60-day rule that basically we won't share the same ASIN again for another 60 days. So if you're buying an item, you're looking at 30-day-old data, you know that, hey, this isn't going to land on an OA Cheddar list for another 30 days. But the recovery starting to happen, I'm going to go ahead and send my units in and purchase this up. And then also, we also shown you different sales cycles. That's the other part of this too, where, do people want to be able to buy an item for full price and sell it profitable? Yes. But there is also, like we were talking about, getting leverage. There are sales cycles that happen with these sources. And so when you can start to understand when those sales cycles are happening, when there's opportunities to stock up on those items. So those are 3 ways I tell people to approach lead lists. And it's working for us. And I know that the rabbit trail works really great for other people. And I know that the old lead data also works well for other people and ourselves as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know too, one of the great things about the way that you deliver leads, you have Cheddar Soft, which is a software that helps people to see those leads and kind of keep up to date with the lead tracking as well, for that third method that you mentioned. There's so much great about being able to go back and check those leads out, whether it's, using Cheddar Soft. There's other software tools out there, Replan Dashboard. I've seen Product Locker. I've seen a bunch of other tools that exist for it, but it's great that you already deliver that with your lists in that software program, which is awesome. And so one thing that I'm curious of, because you mentioned the 60 days that you won't repost another ASIN or the same ASIN again into a list. As I've seen so many lead list providers throughout the years, so a lot of them come and go. What has kind of separated you guys and allowed you to stay so strong over the years while continuing to provide a high quality of leads?
We can both answer that. I'll start, Taylor. It's the first thing is our team. I mean, it starts with the guy that's on the screen with me. We've got an amazing team, our support team, our lead gen team, our quality control team, and the systems that we've built, I think is the first thing, Taylor. I think our standards, we've always taken the long ball approach. We started this, and this business was never, like I said, it was never built. We were never like, hey, this is a way we can go get rich. It was like, that was not the conversation. It was like, here's a problem, let's try and solve it. Here's more problems, let's keep solving that, building the systems. And if I had to summarize it, I'd say it's our team and the fact that we don't take shortcuts. One of the things that's different about us, and we've noticed this the last 2 years especially, it seems like there's been, just a whole bunch of new lead providers that pop up, and we can see through most of them that are pretty shady. We can tell pretty quickly who's buying leads and just reselling them. And that's a part of the industry. It's embarrassing to talk about. It happens. We're proud that we've taken the high road. All of our leads are organic. Majority, 80% plus of what we find is all manually sourced data, just good old fashioned human labor, like looking for deals. There is some software that we use to leverage things, but the majority of our data is not stuff that you're going to see on Tactical Arbitrage or some of that stuff. Because when you use that software, just like a lead list, you're competing with everyone else running those same searches, and we found that data tends to get found a lot. So that's what I think, Taylor. I think our lead quality has been higher. We've taken the long ball approach. There's a lot of leads we don't share. A lot of leads. If you think of mining for leads like mining for gold, we have all the raw material. It comes into our sluice box, goes through the system. Some of it passes quality control, gets shared on a lead list. Majority of that data, a massive amount of data gets passed through and does not qualify for the Cheddar standard. So it has to have a certain net profit, has a certain ROI, so many sales per month. We've got a pretty tight standard, Taylor. I think if we compare, we didn't start off, we just, part of the other thing that makes us unique, and Taylor, you can talk about this, Taylor sources a 7-figure store directly from OA Cheddar data. And, the majority of what they do, a lot of people say that you have like a secret list that you're buying off of, and we don't. Everything gets published, the same lead list that our customers get. Taylor does the sourcing of it. Taylor's condensed his sourcing time. It used to take 4 to 6 hours to source. With our software and the systems now, he's got that down to a couple hours a day. He also runs the business and has a lot of responsibilities. So we're not just making lead lists. It's a list by sellers for sellers. You know, we've all been in the game. I've retired from selling in the short term to focus on being a service provider. Taylor still sources daily actively. So that's what I think makes us different, Taylor. Anything else you see, man?
Well, I mean, it's like you said, we source the data ourselves, and it's like, what do we want to see? So, for example, like we have that 60-day rule. We don't want to see the same ASIN every couple of weeks, right? That's a disservice to our subscribers, and you know, no one wants that. And then on top of that too, we also want to make sure that the items that we're sharing have a history of being profitable. So we have another 60-day rule, which is when we're looking at a keep a graph in the last 90 days, 60 of those days out of the last 90 have to be profitable and in our standards of profitability. We don't want to share something that has a price spike, right? An item selling for $20 historically, all of a sudden it's sold for $40 for the last 2 weeks. We don't want to share that data out there because it's an anomaly. It's probably not going to stay that way, especially when competition comes in. And then like Gabe was saying, our team, we have systems in place where all of the leads that we find are organic, but also stay within our system. And that starts on the team level. So every item is tracked. If anyone ever wanted to say, hey, how did you find this lead? I could pull the receipts and say, here are the screenshots leading up to that VA finding that lead and sharing it onto our list. We also don't, we have a pay per lead team that we use for like an onboarding training. It's a trial, right? But once they graduate, they become part of our core team. And in our core team, we pay, an hourly wage, and there's, incentives for production. But we do that and we pay our people well, so that way they're not tempted to go work for someone else. I think that paying a VA per lead is great, and it's definitely cost effective. But unless you have that relationship established with your team and you are making sure that you're putting systems in place that keep them honest, there's a temptation for them to take the same data that they're finding for us and go to the next lead list provider or to the next Amazon seller and just copy and paste the same data. And over the last 6 years of hiring VAs, I can tell you that happens often, and those people don't usually last very long on our team. So the data stays with us. We do have rules in place for profitability, but also history as well. And that also goes along to the customer as well. Unfortunately, we have seen this happen where, somebody subscribes to a lead list and then they take that data and they resell it, usually in a Discord group or, they're not publicizing it. And so we have systems in place that verify identity and things like that of the customers who are purchasing the data to make sure that they're actual Amazon sellers. One of them being, we sell to US based sellers only. If someone is selling outside the United States, they have to go through a video interview with myself. We check references for prep centers and things like that, just to verify that, hey, they are a legitimate Amazon seller. And not somebody who is trying to just grab the data for $200 a month to then resell it and try to make a couple grand if possible. We also have a bounty program. So anybody who is on our list, right? If you find our data somewhere else and you're like, hey, what you delivered to me today is also what this provider is delivering to me, or this person delivered to me. There's a $500 bounty. There's a YouTube video that we made where I dressed up as Dog the Bounty Hunter when we talked about this. Don't go look it up. It's embarrassing.
It's not happening, but that's the truth, man. I don't know, Taylor, this is what people think of data as data. Leads are leads, OA leads are good or bad, and they categorize everything. It's just not true. There's a lot. Anyways, Jimmy, I don't know if this is where you want to go, but these are some of the things we do. We've pride ourselves. I mean, we kind of build these systems to give good data to sellers so you can sell and find profitable inventory to resell.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's great to hear the systems and everything that you've got, not just from the client side to make sure that you're protecting the data for your clients, but also from your employee side to make sure that you're keeping employees happy. You don't have a high turnover of employees, at least from a virtual assistant perspective. Like you guys did this in the way that it should be done versus I feel like a lot of lead list providers bring in a lot of virtual assistants, and they cycle through a lot of virtual assistants all the time, and then they're constantly chasing the ones that are purchasing the lists and just trying to resell it to the lead list provider. It just becomes a difficult game to play, and so you guys have done it very well. And so I'm curious, actually, from a seller perspective, do you recommend that new sellers would look at leads lists, or do you recommend that they have some experience first and then get into the leads lists as they are growing?
Jimmy, real quick. I'll let you. I know we both have opinions on this.
Yeah.
I recommend for sellers that value their time to leverage a lead list. So if you're a new seller or a veteran seller, I talk to a lot of sellers that are very successful in another career. They've got a 6-figure job with a corporate job that's very flexible or another business, but they don't have time. Same as a new seller who doesn't have time. So if you're a new seller, I absolutely would join a lead list. I would get on because you're not. What a lead list does is it gives you the data, but it buys you all that time, Jimmy. So here's my question. How long would it take a new person to go research and find 200 leads their first month, quality vetted leads? They're probably going to have to find 1,000 or 2,000 total leads to get that narrowed down to stuff that meets their criteria. How long would it take a new person to go through a training, learn how to do OA, and then take that time and assume they don't have any other job or responsibilities or kids and go do product research on the internet, which could be outsourced for pennies on the dollar, or you could buy a lead list, pay $179, and starting tomorrow when you wake up, data is being pre-populated into a software account that you can sort and sift and say, I'm only looking for clothing or outdoor stuff. And so that's, I'm pretty passionate about that because I think a lot of people, I've noticed this, Jimmy, we can talk about this. You've probably seen this. There's a poverty consciousness that sweeps through the e-commerce industry, and people have this, it's holier than thou to like do the work and hustle. And I'm not opposed hard work. I'm pro hard work, but I'm pro hard work and smart work. And, don't spend your time. Is it Abraham Lincoln that said, if I had 10 hours to chop a tree down, I'd spend the first 9 hours sharpening my axe?
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. Like, find tools and systems, take the time to learn them because there's a learning curve for this stuff. That's what I would say. Taylor, do you have anything different you'd comment?
No, I mean, I think you said it perfectly. It's good for new sellers, it's good for experienced sellers. And like you were saying, I mean, when you're coming into this business, trying to find profitable items is the hardest part. And you can outsource that and get a mountain of data coming in. Now, are you going to be able to take action on all those items as a new seller? No. But is it going to point you to sources that you've never heard of, sales that you weren't aware were happening, brands that you didn't even know existed? Right. Absolutely. And prosper as a newer seller, I tell folks, is prosper where you're planted, right? If you can sell it, focus on those. Don't get discouraged, but also use it as a launching point to rabbit trail a little bit to find those items, right? I might provide you with a source that you've never heard of before. And that source might be a health and beauty company from the UK, right? And in that website, you can go through that, and with a little bit of rabbit trailing, you can find profitable items. I was actually just on a call with a newer seller who subscribed to our list and had these questions. And while we were on the call, we just started doing a little basic rabbit trailing, and we found like 2 items on the call that were profitable and good. And I was like, look, you can take action on these. Like, you don't overcomplicate it. We're doing, 80% of the work for you, getting you this lead list. All you got to do is pump it in for the last 20 yards, and then you get a touchdown.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing too, I've got a private community. It's called the Business Building Legends community for sellers doing over 10K per month typically. And in that community, I actually did a video on taking one lead and sourcing it in 7 different ways to find multiple other ASINs that you can test. And there's just so much opportunity there. The leads lists, as the way that a seller should look at them is, hey, this is data that I can now use in so many other ways, right? We can look at the different sources. We can look at trying new sourcing strategies with Keepa or Keepa Data Product Finder, or if you have Tactical Arbitrage or Seller Amp or something like that, and you're trying to try these or trying to get into these new strategies, leads lists give you that, just that jumping off point. And especially since they're profitable leads, it's not like you're getting leads that are 10% return on investment, right? They're profitable leads that have a history of Keepa success. And so you're not only seeing a lot of opportunity, but you're also able to see good things. Like, what should a lead typically look like as a new seller? You can see what a good Keepa chart is typically going to be. You can see different sources, all kinds of stuff. Now, you did mention something that I do have a question on. What about for new sellers that have restrictions in their account? How much on your leads list would a seller have to be worried about restrictions and that kind of a thing?
It's going to vary from day to day. So, we can't keep in mind everybody's restrictions and know exactly what is restricted and what's not. But I don't want to throw out a number because I don't want it to be held on to, but I would say that, 30 to 40% of what, we put on a list for a new seller that they should be able to find success with. But also I would encourage new sellers of get yourself ungated. Focus, like hyper focus. If there's a certain brand or a certain type of category that you're trying to sell in that you're like, hey, these are profitable, and if only I could get ungated. Don't just assume like, well, I'm not going to be able to do anything about it, right? There's a vast amount of knowledge out there, especially on Twitter or X, of folks getting ungated early on. I had a friend that started selling, and he was selling. He wanted to sell Nike and Adidas, but he was like 3 months into selling on Amazon. Only maybe doing 5,000 a month in his store at that time. He went and took they don't exist anymore, but he took an eBay invoice, sent it into Amazon, and got approved to sell Nike, Under Armour, and Adidas. And I was just like, bro, like that is like, you have no idea how much of a leap you just took in your Amazon business by just simply submitting an invoice to Amazon and trying it out. Right. And not taking no for an answer from Amazon when that did come to.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and one thing too that I'll mention, I actually recently did another YouTube video on getting ungated. And so I actually have an ungating guide with auto ungating ASINs that have worked for some newer sellers. Some of them don't work. Some of them do. It depends on your account. But if anybody's interested, you can go to askjimmysmith.com/ungate. And so I've got training on how to get ungated, as well as a whole guide of, I think it's like 300 and something plus ASINs and brands to get ungated.
Good for you, dude. Sweet.
Hopefully that can help. But I think some brand new sellers might have, 30 or 40% of that list will work and the others won't for a little while. But if you've been selling for 6, 7, 8 months, you might have much more luck with the entire list. But
Jimmy, I have this question actually for you. So I tell folks too that, you really want, as a new seller, you want to have as many successful transactions as possible with Amazon. So you want, if you can find an item that maybe it's not the biggest profit, generator, right? But it has a history of consistently selling for a safe price and it's selling very quickly. If you can get that item and just continue to turn and burn those transactions, Amazon will reward you. Amazon wants to see those successful transactions, to their customers. And so the more you can get that as a newer seller, the more likelihood you are to being auto ungated in certain categories and brands and things like that. On the jump. Would you agree on that?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Amazon always rewards consistency and activity in the account. So if you're able to do that, it absolutely will help. If you're someone that is able to send in 1 shipment a week, that's going to be better than sending in 1 shipment a month. If you're someone that's able to just continue to restock items that are selling well, Amazon always likes that. So I totally agree with it. Now, I am curious what some of you, I know that you've got people on your list that have been there for a long time. What have you seen some of your most experienced and best sellers and clients do in their business to stay on top of all the changes with Amazon?
Man, great question, Jimmy. I love success leaves clues, right? So that's why I respect and appreciate what you're doing, pulling people on and interviewing. There's definitely some common traits. Like there's some people that have been with us for a long time, and we know because we had some grandfather pricing back in the day, and I still see those subscriptions. I still get messages from them. They'll be like, "Hey, Gabe, I haven't talked to you for a year and a half. Things are going great. Just want to say thanks." Stuff like that. We get those all the time. But I think one of the things is they take a long-term approach. I don't think, and I was going to say this when you were talking earlier, I'm talking to the new person or even intermediate seller, and you see someone selling seven figures, or you hear about a $10 million seller or a $25 million seller, and you're like, dang, like how do they do it? First off, they didn't do it overnight. It's a 10-year overnight success story. So that's what I would say first on. Give yourself some peace and set an intention. I'm going to go sell on the internet for 10 years and give yourself some grace to make some mistakes, because you're going to make mistakes along the way. That's the first thing. They take a long-term approach. They're not in a hurry, right? Like when Q4 comes around, they're not scrambling, because it's not the only and last Q4 on the planet. It's going to come again next year, and you'll be better and smarter and more capital. It comes again. I think the second thing that I see that's a common trait is they find small victories and little wins consistently, and they celebrate those. And we do that at Cheddar. That's one of our core success principles, if you would, Taylor, is we're not the smartest guy in the room. We're not the fastest entrepreneur in the room. We do good work, but we take every single day, we just try and get a little bit better. And that's all we really do. That's been our motto from the beginning. Like we're not, the only person we're in a race with is ourselves. So I'm saying this because I used to be this person as an entrepreneur and as a e-commerce seller is you feel like you're behind the thing, and you got to give yourself grace. Start with a list. Learn how to master one list. If you're ungated in everything, then get on one of our mixed lists, start selling stuff. And like Taylor said, pick a category. Say, hey man, I'm going to go after clothing and shoes. I'm going to be a specialist in clothing and shoes. Drill into clothing and shoes. Get ungated. Try getting ungated 8 different times if it doesn't work. You know, I wish I had the ungating process has changed so much over the last 6 years of just, I mean, everything changes. It's frustrating for you, I'm sure too. You're trying to make content and help people, and then it's same for us. Like Amazon's constantly changing the rug. So I would say that. And then the third thing, if I had to summarize it into 3 things, and this is like general entrepreneurship wisdom, I hope this inspires you, someone that's watching, is they all persevere. There is a tenacity, and Jimmy, you've probably seen this in entrepreneurs. There's a resiliency. Think and Grow Rich talks about this. I mean, this is an ancient wisdom. This is, hundreds, thousands of years old, potentially. If you set a vision and a goal for yourself and a path, you're willing to make mistakes, forgive yourself, get back up tomorrow, take the action step, and you're willing to persevere through the trial. And I'm laughing because Taylor, you guys just went through section 3. It was completely terrifying, right? Multi 7-figure account on the line. And I'm laughing because that's like the, I don't know, 30th or 40th or 50th, like major crises that's come through down the path over the last, even 5 years. Amazon just throws stuff at you. So you got to persevere, and you got to be flexible. You got to pivot. I think that's another thing. If there's like a bonus, thing is you got to be flexible, right? I think a lot of entrepreneurs get, and this is my last point, and then I'll let you wrap it up. They get like tunnel vision on something. They get locked in on something. Like and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's beliefs from our childhood or I don't know what it is, but I've seen this with entrepreneurs. They're like, I got to make this work. And it's like, well, if you just step back for a second, like, what are all the opportunities that you have here? What's all the assets you have? Maybe instead of just barreling in like a bulldog, maybe it's not clothing and shoes. Hey, you can sell a ton of beauty stuff. Just start selling beauty stuff. That's like a simple thing. Well, I don't know. I don't like beauty. People buy things on the internet, whether you like it or not, right? It's not about you. It's about you providing a service and being valuable. So you got to be flexible. Those are some of the keys. Taylor, I don't know if there's other stuff. I mean, these sellers, they're not special. I'll tell you that. Like these long-term veteran OG sellers, they may not be making millions. I can tell you just story after story of regular people who subscribe to our list. They're not millionaires. They're making a living for their family. They just wanted to get a better way. They wanted to get out of the rat race and find a better way to, have some time back to be with their kids. It's like regular people that just do that and be okay with where you're at, So that's a couple of the key traits.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead, Taylor.
I would just add to that our most successful and long-term customers, they got really good at creating systems. Okay. They don't let money just slip through the cracks in their business. Right. They also figure out can I get an edge on the competition, right? Whether it's cashback, discounted gift cards. So they figure out systems to build those things. And then again, it's obstacles are going to come at you all the time in this business and any business that you're in, but get really good at just overcoming those obstacles, not getting, discouraged in the trenches of, I got an IP complaint. My world is over. Right. No, to hire Jeff Schick, learn how they fight IP complaints, and then we just move on and get that handled and on to the next thing. Because like Gabe said, we've gone through so many obstacles that have hit us in the 11 years that we've been selling on Amazon. And, and also don't be Chicken Little, right? Don't get the bad news. Oh, Amazon's increasing a fee and it's like the world's ending, the space is ending. Like that negative mindset will destroy you. You'll destroy your motivation. And, at the end of the day, speaking as somebody who's been around for a while, like the sky is never really falling. Right. It's all going to be okay. The market adjusts. And, honestly, when those types of things happen, I get, encouraged. Right. There is a cleansing that's happening in the seller space. Right. There's folks who are, who have not planted themselves firmly, and they're going to get washed away when the tide comes in. Right. But for us, we're going to dig our heels in, and we're not going to move, and we're going to keep moving forward with a positive mindset. and things just kind of work itself out over
Yeah.
time.
That's true.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and one thing too, I mean, just to kind of piggyback off that, you have to focus on what only you can control. And we can't control Amazon fees. We can control what we buy. We can't control that, sometimes the competition gets a little bit more difficult at times, but we can control, how we are making our decisions in our business. And so, I think even when replens first really hit the scene back in 2018, 2019 is like a topic and a teaching thing on how to sell on Amazon. It was a different time. It was a little bit easier to go out and find those, hey, day to day, I'm just going to go buy things full price. And the things that aren't perfect right now, I'm just going to pass up on, and that's okay because there's so much out there. There's still a lot out there, but now it's about how do we leverage more data? How do we take some of these leads lists and use them right now in our business, but also be able to use them 6 months or a year down the road because we're saving that data. It's just about becoming a better seller and a better business owner and controlling the things you can control, which is what do we do with this data and what decisions are we making? Where are we spending our money and how can we be smart so that the work we're putting in today can continue to feed us, a year from now.
For sure.
And so I'm excited to have you guys on the channel. I know you have 4 different plans on your website anyway. I've had the link up here for a little bit, but askjimmysmith.com/OA Cheddar. You can get there and check out all the different plans. Would you guys mind kind of talking through the 4 different options from $99 a month up to $279 a month?
Yeah. So our feta list, the $99 a month, is our good, not great list. Right. These are leads that don't meet the Cheddar standard or top shelf standard, but are still good. And you'll normally see items that maybe they're fast selling, but the profit margin on them isn't humongous. Right. Or maybe the profit is really great, but they're a slower seller, which I would tell folks, like, don't sleep on those. Right. When you're looking at Keepa and you see sales rank spikes and you're thinking, okay, this looks slow. I'm finding that if you test those products out a little bit, you might be shocked at how fast that they actually do sell and how well they do. Not all of them, but that is our good, not great list, right? And then the others, the Cheddar 35, Cheddar 25, Cheddar 20, they are all the same standard of list. The only difference between them is just the number of seats that are available. So if you're looking for more exclusivity, you might want to gravitate towards our Cheddar 20 list. If you aren't too worried about 34 other sellers having access to that lead list and you want to save money, then the $179 Cheddar 35 list is the way to go. And then the Cheddar 25, I actually think is the best value that we offer, right? 25 sellers, it's only an additional $20 a month compared to the 35 member list. But all those leads lists, they have the same standards, the same mixed categories. A lead that is shared on one list stays on that list forever. Okay. So there's an ASIN will not show up on the Cheddar 35 list number one day, and then the Cheddar 25 list number 6, another. Okay. We have a system in place where those ASINs stick around with those lists themselves.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Well, I think that those, I know you've got a lot of great plans there. I know many people, or not many people, some people that subscribe to all of the lists, which I've always thought was interesting and kind of cool to see people do that because there's more value in having more information. But I think that should cover everything that I wanted to go through today. Is there anything else that you guys want to leave the audience with on like some tips or anything, or you feel like we're pretty good to go?
I would just say that anybody who signs up for our lead list, there is an onboarding call that you can get with me. And I encourage folks to go ahead and do that. We have a chat feature that is on our oacheddar.com, but also inside of Cheddarsoft. So if there's ever a time that you have a question, or if you want, say, hey, I want to talk more about this, like utilize that chat feature and utilize the Calendly link for onboarding and get on a call with me. I love talking to sellers. I love helping people out, and I love getting their perspective and also their challenges that they're facing, because that helps me figure out an opportunity to solve those problems.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gabe and Taylor. I'm excited to hear more success stories from people too that come through this video and join up with your list. And yeah, it's just going to be an exciting time. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you hopefully on another video soon. Have a good one.
Awesome. Thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Jimmy.
So there you have it. This was the interview with Gabe and Taylor from OA Cheddar. As you can see, they are a wealth of information for selling on Amazon, specifically through online arbitrage methods. Not only do they provide leads that have a high quality to them that they make sure to manage and keep track of so that you aren't getting multiple duplicates and that it's not being shared elsewhere, but also they run their Amazon business based off of the leads that they provide to their customers. And so they actually do practice what they preach. And I really appreciate that from them. Now, if you're interested in checking out their leads list service and getting started with one of their options, then head over to askjimmysmith.com/OA Cheddar. That's where you can find access to all of their different leads lists, from their $99 option up to their most expensive options as well. So if you have any questions, post them in the comments down below. I'll be sure to respond to as many as I possibly can. If there's anything I don't know, I'll reach out to their team to see if they can respond or give me an answer to provide to you. But I hope this video helps you and blesses you. You have a great rest of your day and a blessed rest of your week.